Hi, and welcome to the Steps to Success podcast with your host, Brad Way, where we'll be talking about entrepreneurship, personal growth, success, and how to get there. And on today's episode, I sit down with Cole Miller of 12 Barrels Whiskey. Cole's story and journey is not only funny, but obviously inspiring, and I know that you're going to get a lot out of this. So without further ado, let's get right into it with Cole. Cole met with me on this past Monday. I hope you enjoy. Cheers. Right into it. So, I mean, where I usually like to start is just kind of to get your backstory on who you are, not so much, what you're doing right now, but, where did Cole Miller start? Like, where did you grow up?
Good old Bents Point Road. So that's about 15-20 minutes south here of Napanee. Little dead end road. We're heading over to Lake Ontario. So it's I live in one house. Next door to that is my aunt and uncle, and next door to that is grandma and grandpa.
Oh, cool.
So it's quite the little
it's like a family homestead.
Family affair growing up.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, can never get away with anything.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll get to that. Yeah. Because I read some of your story online and actually was speaking with Ashley down at Coffee Cravings, and he kind of shared some insights. You must have talked to him at some point.
Yeah, I've been there once in a while.
Yeah, so he shared some nuggets in there that I found were very funny, and that was actually before we met face to face. So you grew up on a farm, or did you just grow up in the country?
Grew up in the country. Farms are around us, but we've got the woods out back and that sort of thing.
And what was that like?
School, sports, some more sports, and a little bit more sports on the side. Yeah, doing something 7 nights a week, 8 if I could.
You were one of them kids.
Yeah, one of them kids. Well, I played AAA hockey there growing up and that sort of thing, competitive soccer in the summer, and I tried to do every single sport I could with the school teams and that sort of thing. And
where did you play AAA?
Quinny.
Yeah.
So tried to do that, and that of course taught you a little bit of everything. And
yeah, sure.
So I think that was where start of things got going.
Yeah, and I think sports are incredibly important. I give a lot of credit to some of my foundational stuff to sports. Mm-hmm. Since you've played a lot, do you give any credit to some of your sports experience to where you are today? I mean, what did you take away from, say, AAA hockey?
Yeah, the best thing that ever happened to me playing hockey was getting cut. So
why do you say that?
I'm 14, 15 years old. I'm a goalie. So I'm quirky as it is, so that explains lots. And we go all the way to the Ontario Hockey Championships.
Yep.
So
gotcha.
We make it to the top.
Which was where?
Which was in Oakville.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we were playing. I was a starting goalie through the playoffs. We're in this big tournament, so they have like the big 6 teams that make it to the tournament, and whoever wins the tournament wins. And so we were playing, and I was starting every game, and we played really well. We didn't win, but it was good. So that would have ended late March, early April, and then the first week of May we would have had tryouts for the next year's team. And I went into this May tryout for next year's team thinking like, oh, I started every game, I've gotten this in the bag, and I didn't try as hard as I should have in the tryout.
You mean like from a preparation standpoint, or you just shit the bed during the tryout?
Oh yeah, it was like I was 14, 15 years old and thought I was on top of the world.
Cool.
Yeah, because like one of the best ranked goalies in Ontario, and I was like, oh, done. This is sweet.
This is done.
Yeah,
already.
And I just didn't put in the effort that I should have.
Yeah,
like still quality goaltending,
sure.
For the most part, but it was actually that little bit extra that they saw. And then
was it based on your effort or result? Do you think that they saw like, what's he doing? He's not putting in what we know he can, so we're gonna humble him.
Yeah, that was probably it. Who knows what the details? Right. It could have been politics. It could have been lack of quality.
Yeah, because there's no politics in hockey.
Oh, absolutely not.
No. So you started that story by saying that was probably the best thing that happened to you.
So then I got caught, and I was like, oh my goodness, what the heck just happened? My world got rocked because I was the guy in Napanee who was the best goalie ever. I'm exaggerating, but I was 14 and I thought
exactly.
Yeah.
Been there.
And then so like my identity was lost. Like, oh, I'm not the best in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And so that woke me up to working hard and various other things that I learned from that lesson. So I hated it at the time. The next couple of years I resented it, but it was quite interesting.
Well, yeah, and now that you can look back.
Exactly.
I mean, what a great lesson. Really, truly. So how long ago would that have been? You're not that old. You're pretty
That
young.
was 7-8 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago. So
Yeah,
that
probably-
puts you in
probably
your
8 or
early
9.
20s.
Yeah, 22.
22 now, right now. And you graduated from Carleton?
Yep.
I did my little bit of research.
Yeah, just this past spring there.
What'd you graduate from?
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful?
Yeah, mouthful. A Bachelor of Cognitive Science with a specialization in the biological foundations of cognition with a minor in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So let's say neuroscience, you're looking at, serotonin and these sorts of chemicals and XYZ, and this protein is interacting with this protein, and in dementia, this protein is misfolding, therefore not creating a signal. So that's, your neuroscience. Your psychology is looking at, like, hey, you're outgoing or you're conscientious. It's like your behavior that you're outputting.
Sure.
Our cognitive science was looking at the brain from a perspective of this brain region isn't communicating with this brain region. So if you are damaged in your left temporal lobe in this specific place, well, that therefore, let's say it's Wernicke's area, that's, you'll be able to understand speech, but you can still talk.
I gotcha.
This area is damaged, therefore the signal isn't getting transmitted. So we're looking at the brain from that standpoint. The biological foundation of cognition is just saying neuroscience-y stuff.
Entrepreneur.
Not quite.
Right. No, but the next thing was entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you're a little overqualified to make whiskey.
I don't know about that. So it was super interesting that my first couple of years, my first 2 years of school were fairly directed. So you had to do research on dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, brain disorders, concussion stuff. And the last 2 years it was self-guided. Yeah. So you got to pick what, you had to work on a project. It had to be 5 pages long, whatever it was. And so my third year project I did on trying to cure the hangover from a neuroscience level.
I think you may have told me that, or I read that somewhere.
Yeah, and so there's no way to cure hangover.
I swear that I know people that know the cure.
Yeah, well, there are certain people who have a predisposition to it that have
is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
And that's just certain imbalances in the body.
People are picking up all kinds of powerful nuggets this morning. This afternoon. So happy belated birthday. I actually saw that you must have had a birthday recently.
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. So you're trucking along, you're going through school, and you've graduated. And I mean, at some point along that journey, where did the idea of becoming an entrepreneur and pursuing blending whiskey come from?
2 separate questions.
Okay,
entrepreneurship and whiskey were very separate for me.
Okay. Yes, talk about that.
So, just down the road from us in Bath, there's an ice cream store, or it used to be one. It was up for sale, and Dad was kind of interested in buying it. And he said, Cole, I could, at the time, this is 7 or 8 years ago as well. It might have been 14, 15. I was grade 9 in high school. And Dad said, I can spend $800 a week in the Kingston Whig Standard, so the biggest newspaper around. But what if I could spend, $2 or $3 grand and it could last me a while and I could get more benefit out of it? What could we possibly make? So we got thinking about these different things, and what we ended up making together, we didn't buy the ice cream business, but we got into the ice cream bench business.
The ice cream bench.
So what we did was we made fiberglass benches that were 3D molded. So you'd sit on the waffle cone, and we'd make it look like a waffle cone in all 3D. And on the back, it was 3D molded. So you had your cherry that was red, had the green stem.
Right.
Around your shoulder blades was your whipped cream and had the sprinkles on it. You had the chocolate sauce, and you had the ice cream, on the bottom. And you sold those anywhere. My first sale, I sold it cheap because I just want to get one sold for $500. Yeah. Sold my most expensive ones to Reed's Dairy, where I made the actual bench itself and the backing.
So would you say you were just a natural salesperson? Did that?
Oh, I had to learn quick because Dad would help me make them. He really knew what he was doing, and I was kind of like, okay, I'll go along with it. Sure. And it was like, okay, here's a finished one. Now go do something with it. And I had my license at that time. By the time we got there finished, I had my license for about 2 weeks.
So that was your first kind of stint with entrepreneurship, business development, that kind of thing.
Okay, now you can call someone and drive there and not have mom and dad take you everywhere.
Okay, gotcha.
Go out and figure it out.
Gotcha.
So it was, we sold every ice cream store that wanted to buy it between Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa.
Sure.
And just, beyond that, it got expensive and I wasn't really into it.
Right.
That was the first taste of like, oh, you can call someone up and meet them in a week and sell something for $2,000.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's a neat story. I never knew that about you.
Yeah.
How you started.
So that was the first taste.
Taste of and I obviously want you to get into where the whiskey come from, but I want to make sure you kind of share the story behind how that all came about.
Yeah.
I mean, I read that some time ago. Again, Ashley shared some nuggets. I really would like to hear that again from the horse's mouth, so to speak. On
because I like to make stuff.
Okay.
And play around with things and that sort of thing. I am not the least bit tech. I can hardly work Google. I was 16, mom and dad caught me stealing liquor, right? And I decided to make it because I want to be making something. But looking from a business perspective, even 5-6 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago now, craft beer was taking off. And it was like, oh, once I'm 30 and I actually have the money to go do this now, craft beer is going to be long gone. There's too many wine labels on the rack. And whiskey takes 3 years to age. And I don't have money to put whiskey down, sit on it for 3 years, and hope my whiskey's good to sell it. And so it's like, I can't get in the booze business. I'll play around making liquor, but at the time, I didn't have any intent to ever start in the booze business. It's just when I realized in that industry, like, oh, there's other ways to get around this.
Right.
And that there is a market there. It's like, oh, well, now I could actually do what I like and,
So what part of it is your passion? The creating?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm big on tasting different whiskeys and trying different whiskeys. So that was what got me into whiskey, was just this like variety.
Yeah.
What got me to making whiskey is the hardest thing to do. Yeah. Like along with rum and cognac. Yeah. You can make wine. You can make wine from mixing grapes, sugar, and yeast and let it go and happen.
Right.
Beer is a similar product where you mix everything together, but you have to heat it up for about an hour.
Right.
To get it to cook
Yeah,
up.
no, I started making my own beers and stuff like that's fun.
So you got to cook it up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then you've got your vodka and gin, which is, essentially distilling that beer-like substance, right?
Sure.
Which is, you got that, but then you got to age it as well. And so it's like this
long
the process of like, okay, I got the wine down, I got the beer, I got the distilling, let's go age it. And that was, the most complicated thing you can do with the alcohol space is then aging it. And so I just, I just wanted to keep on going, exploring.
Reading some of your story online, one of the things that jumped out at me, obviously, is disappointing your mother. You point that out, and that she wasn't happy with you, but you still continued to push forward anyways, which shows your perseverance. Maybe it was when you were cut the first time that kind of showed you that maybe hard work was worth it when you stuck to something. But the other thing that kind of stood out to me in that kind of story was you reaching out to 300 distilleries.
Yeah, at least that.
And actually hitting pay dirt. I mean, I guess I want you to talk about that a little bit and then that experience, because I think so many people think that things that maybe have happened to you, they look at it in a microcosm and say, oh, he had it easy. It must have been just happened for him.
Yeah, well, I had a really good opportunity to de-risk the opportunity. So at the time, the grant...
Seems like good business sense.
Yeah, the grant no longer exists, but it was called the Ontario Global Edge Program.
Okay.
So this program, if you were in university or college, and you would get $5,000 for your summer, and if you could convince the Ontario government that you wanted to learn skills that you couldn't learn in Ontario or Canada, and you could go somewhere else in the world, learn them, and come back and start a business, we'll give you $5,000 to go learn those skills. So let's say it's November, I convinced the government to say, if I can find the appropriate job, they're willing to give me $5,000 for planes, rent, food while I'm over there, and still get a job that pays me to learn these booze-making skills, essentially. So I got that approval, and I had 3 months to find a job. And you couldn't do it in Canada, and you couldn't do it in the States. So I had the whiskey bug then, because I was 19. 19 for 2 months. So I'd already spent a fair bit of money trying the whiskeys and the LCBO and everything. So I had the whiskey bug. I was making the whiskey. This is what really interested me. So I applied to every Scotch distillery, every English distillery, whether that be vodka, gin. I just applied to everything. All the Irish, Australia, and then I went after, there are some really interesting breweries in Belgium and Germany. And I also went off to the cognac distilleries in France and to grappa and vodka in Italy. And I just applied everywhere, called everyone, and I had, so it was at least 300 that I sent out, and I had 2 job offers come back. Mm-hmm. One was for the Lakes Distillery, which I eventually ended up taking, and the other one I received was to be a tour guide in Belgium. And what you would do is for 14 days, you would take a bunch of Americans and Canadians, and you would ride your bikes from Belgium countryside and stop off at breweries. And at each brewery, you would do the tour, not the actual company. Right. So you had like a month you got there, would learn all these different breweries and everything, and you go around and take a run.
Right.
So like, that was really cool too.
I know. That's incredible. All for what, a couple of days work of reaching out to a bunch of different options, and I think that's incredible. And I guess what I want to have come across is that it takes some effort and maybe some long shots to maybe hit the home run. And I often hear, it
was probably Christmas break. I took like 4 solid days and researched an Excel sheet of every single possible company that I was interested in. Found out, do I really want to go work for this vodka company? Oh, they aren't doing what I want? Okay, they're not off the list. Yeah. With 300 people who are doing something that's marvelously interesting, that was beneficial to me. Yeah. And eventually got the Lakes Distillery job.
Yeah, so that propelled obviously you on your journey to pursue whiskey and
there I worked 4 days a week, usually 7 till 5 in production. So that was making whiskey from step 1 to step final. And then at nights, because I lived on site with the owner. It used to be a farm.
Oh, that's kind of cool too.
Victorian model farm. So the farm was down at the bottom of the hill, and top of the hill was the house, and I lived, maybe 150, 200 feet away.
Wow.
So I would do tours and that sort of thing, and then on the weekends, either I would come in and do VIP tours, or if there was a distributor in, I'd do the tour for them as well, or we'd go visit golf courses, restaurants, trade shows. Got out and did the selling part as well. So I got the front end and the back end of that business, and it was also super interesting to go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and the owner is 15 feet away with you talking to Taiwan. And he's speaking awful Mandarin, right? And trying to get deals done. Right. So that was super interesting. To see that sort of business.
From that experience? What was your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway was the business model. So they had put 35 million Canadian dollars into this distillery. So the farm was built in 1830, been shut down for 50 years, and they're building it back up for all this equipment. They wanted to make, it was on the English side of the border. We were about 25, 30 kilometers away from Scotland. And what they wanted to do was make single malt Scotch, but not Scotch just made in Scotland. So they wanted to make single malt whiskey, which has to age 6, 8, 10, 12 years to be any good. Right. And they need money now. So they were distilling vodkas and gins, and they were making a whiskey. But the whiskey wasn't made on site. It wasn't bottled on site. And I went a couple months into it. I'm like, well, where the heck is this coming from? And they kind of explained, we buy whiskey from 20 different distilleries that all have their own products. We bring them together, make our own unique recipe, and pay someone else to bottle it for us, essentially. Gotcha. Rent out their space. Yep. And I went, this is interesting. And I was like, is this new? And they're like, no, everyone's been doing this for 200 years.
Right. Yeah.
If it says blended,
someone just lifted the blinders off.
Yeah, blended Scotch whiskey. There's no Johnny Walker distillery. The parent company owns 25 different distilleries, and Johnny Walker blends from all 25 places. Yeah. And I went, this is really interesting. That got me around the problem of waiting on whiskey for 3 years.
That you didn't have.
And hoping that whiskey that came out was good. Right. I could say, you make good whiskey, you make good whiskey, and you make good whiskey. I'm going to bring all those whiskeys in, blend. And if the LCBO says, Cole, you need to modify the recipe, I can put a little bit more rye in it. I can put a little bit more wheat in it. But if you did that, you couldn't go back 3 years and change the recipe, right?
Understood, yeah.
You'd be another 3 at least.
That's interesting. Oh, that's great. So, I mean, at this point, you've had some success. So I'm talking about present day. Yep. Obviously, you're making some traction. What are some of the key areas to your success? What do you think, key attributes that you either have or that you've picked up along the way from others that have been instrumental?
What's the difference between whiskey brand A and whiskey brand B?
Okay.
The quality of the whiskey is not a factor. Sure. You need to have really good whiskey. So I'm not saying that whiskey quality doesn't matter. Sure. But the whiskey consumer, for the most part, is fairly uneducated. Right. And it's a due to price point. So you can pick up a beer for $3 and you can try 10 different brands for $30. Right. So that's easy access to, I know what a pale ale tastes like versus an IPA. So you could spend $3 to find out. Yeah. If you want to know what good bourbon tastes like versus good scotch, well, you're $200 in.
Right.
And so then that cost is prohibitive to education and learning. What's the difference between peaty scotch and, youthful bourbon?
I have no idea.
Exactly. So the quality matters, but most people don't know the actual subtle differences in between, Canadian.
So you've educated yourself a whole lot on this stuff.
I spent more money than I should have on whiskey.
In terms of the average listener, when you think about the keys to your success as it applies to just business in general, what would you say some of your keys to success, or what is the key to success? I don't know how much thinking you've ever done on that. But
so when it came around this realization that quality of the spirit matters, but it's not everything. You have to get someone to buy your bottle first, and that comes down to a really good story.
Storytelling.
Yeah,
sure.
And so then it came down to I accidentally created this really good, I think, a really good story.
Sure.
The two sub-stories are me making booze in high school.
Accidentally, not as in made up. It's actually true.
Happened.
You came across it.
Exactly.
Right.
Making booze, selling it to my friends in high school, going to Scotland, learning the tricks of trade, coming back here and starting a booze brand. That's a really good story.
Sure it is.
The story of
it captivated me.
Getting in the LCBO took me a year and a half. They rejected 13 recipes before they said yes to the recipe 14. It was a game of politics. It's David versus Goliath.
So I would almost say resilience is so important.
Oh yeah, well, they rejected it. Oh yeah, there was.
That's been a key to your success.
I can distinctly remember the day. It was November. It was middle of November, and I had to. And I'm a one-man band in 12 Barrels, and so I got to go to someone that's outside of the company. So I went down with Mom.
So it's just you.
Just me.
Just you.
Yeah. And so I went down to Dad. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And there's nothing I can't. The LCBO is not going to say yes.
Right.
And if I can't get LCBO, every other person, Alberta, Quebec, US, they're saying, you're an Ontario business. You need to make it successful in LCBO. If you do, we'll have you on.
Right.
After 6 or 12 months
later.
So
domino after that.
Domino effect after.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't get it. They said no. The whiskey buyers hate me at this point. It's partially because I'm 20 at the time. Sure. Saying hey, buy my whiskey.
Right.
And
Who are you?
Who are you? We know Crown Royal is going to sell 10,000 bottles a day as it is. Why don't we bring you on? So it's me being stubborn and not saying no, bring me on.
So how do you overcome it? You were wrecked. You were obviously.
I just played the game and listened to what they said. So they said, we want a whiskey that has this. Well, okay, I'll give you a whiskey that has this.
Imagine that.
And then it would, your whiskey's good, but your marketing plan's not on. We want a little bit more of this. Okay, well, I'll change Facebook dollars and online spending to in-store spending if you think they'll have better return. Okay, now I'm going to spend $25,000 first year in marketing. We want 40 or 50. Okay, now let's go. Yeah. Eventually, I put everything that they wanted.
They couldn't say no.
They couldn't say no.
Oh, good for you.
So that took a little while.
So
when they said but that wasn't a slow process of yes over months. That happened in about 2 weeks. But when they did say yes, your whiskey is good enough, and we are interested in bringing you on. Now we have to make a few more tweaks to your business plan, your marketing plan, your ad spend. But we're going to approve you at some point in the future. 4 days before that, I said, Dad, I have to shut this down. Yeah. And it was a super serious conversation. And the conclusion was, all right, we'll wait to the new year and see what happens.
And that was in 2016?
Yeah, and that was November 15th.
Interesting.
And that was a Friday afternoon, sat on the weekend. Monday morning at 8:30, they call up and say, Cole, you're in.
So I saw the video online.
Yeah.
It was kind of that.
Yeah, it was you're in.
Yeah. Must have been a pretty ecstatic moment. You must have been just kind of what just happened?
Yeah. It's long story neat. It's pretty neat, right?
Sure.
The youngest person to ever sold liquor in Canada.
Was that? Oh, I didn't know you had that stamp.
Well, legally? Yeah.
No.
I beat my own record.
I was going to say, I'm sure many people have beat that record, but just not legally.
No. When the LCBO invited me on, they said, congratulations, you brought your whiskey on. You're now the youngest person to ever supply booze.
That's an interesting part of your story.
Yeah.
I love storytelling, and I love a great story. People are very important, certainly to me.
Yeah.
How important are the people around you, and who would you identify as probably the most instrumental to your success?
Ooh, that's good. I will think about that and I'll divert somewhere else. Something I learned very early on was people buy from people. You could have the best product in the world. If there's 2 LCBO buyers who do whiskey, if you piss them off like I did, they're not buying from you no matter how good your shit is.
Sure.
And I went, oh, that's interesting. And that's especially a B2B model where your product needs to get into Walmart. If there's one guy at Chapters, for example, who buys sci-fi books and puts them on shelves, if you pissed him off 10 years earlier and you want to go sell him something now, he's not going to buy your product. Right. So that's something that was, the people who you do engage with, no matter how much I dislike you, or how much I love you, treat everyone with like the respect. And don't burn the bridges and keep everything happy because they might come back later and you might need to do business with them. And if you were a dick before, they're going to be a dick to you now.
Sure.
Important people getting this going.
Well, just, in your life, how important,
I wouldn't say any one person had like an aha moment or anything. I'd say it's pieces of the puzzle to make the whole thing come together.
Sure.
Mom and dad having the opportunity to say, hey, you're going to come out of school and we'll let you live here for a year or two cost-free. Being in that position to say, hey, I'm de-risked. I have no wife, I got no kids, I got no mortgage. I can put everything on the line, and at the end of the day, if 12 barrels fails, I have a warm bed and a roof over my head and food on the table thanks to mom and dad for the next couple of years, right?
Thank God for mom and dad.
Exactly. A lot of people don't have that ability, right?
Anybody that's listening can send mom and dad a Christmas card.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's when you're enjoying your whiskey this Christmas.
So without that opportunity, I may be having to, pay off a boatload of student debts. I may have to be, paying rent instead of putting that money into the business, whatever it may look like. That's hugely important. Teachers and professors are super interesting and, of course, push you along certain ways. So there's a couple of them along the way. And people who took the time to sit down and say, chat with me for now on the phone.
Sure. Which
would be someone from the Lakes Distillery. My sales pitch to them wasn't, hey, give me a job right away. It was, tell me about your business a little bit. I'm interested. And the guy, the owner, was willing to talk to me a half hour. And I kind of talked back and said I knew what I was doing. And he said, oh, that's super interesting. 3 weeks later, I said, okay, offer me a job. Let's go.
Sure, absolutely.
Right?
I think you're a better salesperson than you like to think, or either that you learn very quickly.
Yeah, or I haven't really realized it yet.
Because I think that's very key, is to actually be interested in what they want and what they're doing before you can position yourself as a valuable asset to them.
Well, yeah, so what I learned from that 300 email and phone call process was
300 phone calls too?
Oh no, it was 200 emails, 100 phone calls.
I'm just interested.
Yeah. So I want a job, and I want to go to Europe, and I want to have the best summer of my life, and I want you to pay me to do it.
That sounded great when I read that, by the way.
And I want you to teach me everything you know, so that I can go back to Canada and do exactly what you're going to do.
Sure.
Except I'm going to learn from you, and I'm going to do it better.
Yeah.
Are you going to take me on if I say that to you?
I probably would learn, knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
I tend to think that it's not the knowledge that's so important, but it's the execution.
Yeah. But if you have that sales pitch of, I want to have the best summer of my life.
I like you, but for saying that, by the way, too, if you say that to me.
I want to party all the time. I want you to teach me everything, and I come back and steal everything you do. Yeah. That's not going to get you the whiskey-making job that you want to do. It is, okay, they know I want something.
Sure.
They also want something.
Sure.
And what value can you bring to them? And just saying, hey, here's what I can do for you that I think would be really interesting. That is interesting for me. Therefore, I get something out of it, you get something out of it.
You know what I found too, Cole, is that successful people, not everybody, but those that are really comfortable with themselves and what they have to offer aren't afraid to share what they know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Now, I mean, I've been in business now for 12 years, and not everybody's like this, but a lot of people that I come across, they're not afraid to share every single anecdote that they can.
The liquor business is
but not everybody. And I would argue that the insurance business is very similar. I mean, there's some people that just do not want to share their experience because now you're going to gain from their heartache and challenges over the years. And I can appreciate that. But one of the things I know I appreciate from going to some of the conferences I go, I'm actually a part of a network group of chamber advisors, chamber group insurance advisors across Ontario. And one of the things that's different about that group is that doesn't exist. Is that we just share everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. So I that's been my experience.
The booze business in Ontario for spirits anyway is very close.
Is that right?
Cut very close.
That's interesting because in the craft beer business, I would say
totally
it's totally different.
Totally
like
different.
From speaking to the Jordans and the Ivans and that kind of thing. Where does your motivation come from? Because you seem like a pretty motivated guy. I mean, you're 21?
22 now.
22, yeah, you're getting old. So not everybody is an entrepreneur at 22. They don't go through the adversity that you would have to get to where you are. What is driving you?
I enjoy working a lot. I think it's fun. I'd rather, work a lot of hours in a day than come home and watch Netflix and hang out.
Do you still do that, or you just don't do that a lot?
Not as often. I'll do a whiskey show on the weekend, and it's 12, 13 hours on the floor a day, and I'll come back on Sunday like, okay, I need 45 minutes of a good Netflix show.
So you work hard.
Oh yeah. Phone calls during the day, selling LCBOs on the road. I'm off on the road the next 4 days. Off to
because doing this, arranging this, I thought it would actually be a little bit easier. Not that you made it very hard. But
so I'm off.
You're busy.
I'm off to Toronto for the next 2 days. Off to London and St. Catharines the day after that. Then I'm off to Bancroft, Lindsay, Peterborough. Friday night from 4 to 8, I have an LCBO tasting. And I'm back to Toronto Saturday night for an LCBO tasting. Sunday from 1 to 5 I have an LCBO tasting, and then back.
So you're the front and the back end.
Oh yeah. When I say it's just me, I mean it's just me. I hire a sales agency and I pay them 10% off the top of every bottle, and they will set up a staff tasting for me, or they'll do a staff tasting for me. So if I'm in Ottawa visiting someone for business and a store comes up like, we want to bring you on, we want to do taste it with our staff to see if we like it. Well, I can send them down to London and say, hey, do the tasting because I can't get there.
Right.
So I'm not a one-man band. I do have help.
Right, resources.
Exactly.
I was going to say, what keeps you busy now? Maybe an ignorant question, because I probably should have known that you were obviously busy still doing business development, because certainly as soon as you turn the lights on, it's not as if it's all over.
Yeah, so the LCBO forced me into 25 stores. So I got to pick those 25, and they had to say, you're taking it for at least 6 months. But store number 26, 27, 28, all the way up to 656 LCBO stores or something like that now, is you have to go get them.
Right.
So I'm up to about 125, 130 now in the first 2 months.
Congratulations.
And I wanted to be in the 150, 175 range going into Christmas. I don't want to go too fast because the store can also say, oh, you're doing poorly, I'm going to kick you out. And you and I are both managers, and I'll tell the next manager, 12 barrels didn't sell that well.
Right.
In Port Hope, therefore don't sell in Oshawa.
Right.
10 minutes down the road.
Right, sure. Yeah.
And then the LCBO threw a little bit of a wrench in there and said, oh, never mind, we want you to be in as many stores as possible.
Right.
Because what they looked at was how healthy your brand is. So at the end of every year, they'll say, are we carrying you again for next year?
Right.
And that was number of bottles sold per store per week. So let's say like in Napanee, I might sell 5 bottles a week.
Yeah.
And in Port Hope, I'll sell 2 bottles a week.
Right.
And they'll say, are you good or not compared to your competition?
Sure.
Then they switched it to, oh, it's not that anymore. It's just net sales. How many bottles are you moving? So I need to be renewed for year 2 and year 3.
Sure.
So I need my net sales to be as high as possible, regardless if a store moves 1 bottle and delists me.
Sure.
I have to
just volume. So it's interesting. I'm sure you're learning a lot along the way. And actually, I had this conversation with someone else the other day, is how important do you think it is to, I don't want to say fake it until you make it, but not be afraid to take a leap when you don't know all the answers? Has that been important to you in your process? I can only imagine it has been, and you haven't known everything when you've made a decision to move forward.
What's the saying when they say like, knowing just enough? Knowing little is fine, knowing too much is fine, but knowing just enough is the most dangerous. I knew just enough to do it.
Right.
So it was, business isn't expensive. The stupid tax is.
But I think you pay it. I think anybody in entrepreneurship and small business would say that they've made mistakes, right?
Yeah. So some of the best things I've ever done was starting this business. I probably wasted $15,000 of my own money on stupid things that if I were in the industry, I would have known better and not have done that. Buying bottles when I shouldn't have, paying this guy.
Buying inventory, sure.
Yeah. Just really, things that you shouldn't have done. Give this person money when you shouldn't have, and pay, bring this person on if you shouldn't have, whatever that may be. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, I worked for 15 grand. You make 10 grand a summer working minimum wage between universities. And I went, oh, I just worked 4 months and worked 4 months every day.
Someone.
And I just wasted that money on nothing in the first 4 or 5 months of business.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, that's like, I just like, oh, now.
Another humbling moment.
Yeah, exactly. So that was super interesting.
Yeah.
Can't remember where we are now.
No, I think that's important for people to hear. I mean, certainly buying inventory before it's necessarily sold. Sometimes I think people, especially young in entrepreneurship, me included, we try to be too fancy.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the beginning.
Oh yes.
And it's not time to be fancy. Did that remind you?
Yes. Where we were going was industry knowledge. Taking that leap, not knowing everything but willing to do it anyway.
Sure.
Was if I would have been in the industry and knew everything, I would never have started in the whiskey business.
Right.
It's tough.
Yes.
The margins are awful. The competition is cutthroat. How do you compete against Crown Royal, Canadian Club, when the company that owns Crown Royal also owns Bailey's and Guinness and Smirnoff and Ciroc?
You would have been scared out before you even started.
Hundreds of thousands of employees.
Right.
They have billions of dollars in cash. And what's my competitive advantage? There's, cute cheek Cole pinches cheeks. He's got a good story. Any sane person would say, Cole, you're crazy. I was too stupid and ignorant.
I'm sure you had that. Did you have some crazy comments?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the competitive advantage? How are you going to beat them?
Right. Yeah. What is it that you find most challenging in your day-to-day now? What is it that's kind of the biggest challenge?
Keeping the balancing short-term gain versus long term.
Yeah, so patience.
I could 12 barrels isn't going to pay me $1 for the first 2 years.
Right.
I could make 12 barrels pay me $1.
You're going to scare everybody out of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but that's money not going back in the business growth, because I know that putting that money in now in 6 years from now is more valuable than me taking it out and
compounds,
spending.
right? What a great point, and I'm so glad you brought that up. Is not taking all the money for profits for yourself, but taking that money and reinvesting in your business.
Yeah,
and that it compounds over time. If you have the discipline to not spend your profits today and you invest that $1, it'll turn into $3 or $6 down the road.
I personally own 100% 12 barrels.
Right.
I don't have any partners.
So you don't want any shareholders right now? I've got money.
I don't have any investors. So that's it. I would like to keep running it the way I like to run it.
Sure.
And I'm not interested in bringing on third-party investors to say, hey, we invest in you in 4 years from now, you hit 10x growth.
Yeah.
We're going to sell off to a private equity company.
Sure.
I'm not in that.
Yeah, sure.
So I like having that control. I'm able to do what I want to do. That's great.
Yeah.
But I could take someone's $1 million, give away half the company, and I could have $1 million and execute so quick. Right? I could make that 10-year goal 18 months.
Right.
But I've lost that control. I've lost 50% of the company.
Yeah.
May or may not be.
Well, that's obviously what's passionate. That's what you want to be doing too. You're passionate about it, right? It's not just about the money.
Passion. I think it's an overused, overrated word. But I would say that a good question of ice cream benches. I made more money at 16 in ice cream benches than I have in 12 barrels. But I hated it. I really did. The sales were interesting. I kind of liked making it, but I wasn't passionate about ice cream benches.
Sure.
But I was making liquor for no money, and I'd still be making liquor for no money.
Sure.
So wouldn't it be interesting if I could possibly make $1 doing it anyway with not making? I know I'm not going to make $1 for 2 years, but I still enjoy it. Would be doing it anyway. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? I could possibly make some money off it in the long term.
Great advice. Yeah. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs starting out?
That was a good one.
No, that was a good one. So if you could maybe even go back and give yourself some advice or other people, what would you say?
I have really good advice for young entrepreneurs. If you're 45, I have no idea what it's like to be having a mortgage and 2 kids and the rest of it. So I've got no idea what I should be saying to you. Kids in high school.
I'm not 45, by the way.
Yeah.
I do have a wife and kids and a mortgage.
Kids in high school, kids in university, you're under 25.
Yeah.
And you don't know what business you want to get into, but you're interested in doing something. Work your ass off for a little while, make some money. Get that $20,000, $10,000, $30,000, $50,000 under your belt that you can go spend on stupid shit to learn that business.
Right.
Because if I worked all the summers and I worked on the farms around us and I had a little bit of savings built up, that I could go down and deploy that thousands of dollars against starting the business and get to the point where I can now to say, hey, 12 Barrels is functioning. I haven't had to take out inside investors. I can run it at a break even for the next 2 years. The company can be worth $1 million in the future, and then I can give away 10% of the company for $100,000. But if I wanted to get that $100,000 to start the business right away, I give away 75% of the company.
Right.
Yeah. So if you are able to get $25,000 and it takes $15,000 to start the business, well, you got some money to support yourself for the next year, and you got $15,000 to start the business. Yeah. And if it fails, well, you made a poor decision. But you learned something.
Yeah.
But you didn't take someone else's money and lose their money.
I think that's great advice. I mean, you've given some great advice throughout the conversation.
Because that's something I couldn't do. Was like, even though someone's going to give you money, they have to have lots of it. So like say, like, hey, you're 22 years old. I'm running a booze business.
Hey, if someone's going to give you money, they're going to take something in return, right? And you're going to give something
part of their portfolio. They're expecting losses somewhere, right? But the worst thing I could do is take someone else's money and waste it on poor decision making on my part, right? That'd eat me up inside. Yeah. Like I just blew $100,000 of someone else's money. Yeah. And now the company's bankrupt.
Yeah. No, I could identify with that totally. Yeah. Outside of business, what does Cole do for fun?
Not much. Work. Because
you're too busy, or you don't have any. This is truly your passion, and you just love doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I made a lot of booze in high school. Yeah. It took me a year and a half to get in the LCBO. So all of third year and all of fourth year was trying to get in the LCBO. Right. Making liquor, doing stuff, and then still going to school 25 hours a week and doing all the schoolwork. Yeah. I didn't party often. I didn't make, like, I've got 2 friends that I were roommates with, but like, I made no other friends in university.
Interesting.
Like, that sucks. Yeah. I might have 3 or 4 friends here.
Did you say you're a workaholic?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got 3 or 4 friends here in Napanee, but they're also at school. So like, I'm here, I got like nothing, no one to hang out with. Yeah. I'm not big on watching Netflix or anything like that. I read the occasional book that I've got into recently. Yeah. I never used to read, but I renewed my library card about 2 months ago. For the first time in 10 years, I pulled a book out.
What type of books do you read?
Business books.
Business books. Oh, yeah. So self-development, professional development, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I could never read a fiction book.
Me neither.
If you want me to read fiction, give me the movie for 2 hours on Friday night. It's much more entertaining.
I don't think I read one book in all my life. I finished my first book on my honeymoon. It was a business-related book. Yeah. Never did I ever read a book in high school. I hated fiction.
So the first book that I picked up a couple months ago was David versus Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell.
I know Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah. And the whole book was like, here's the David Goliath story, what actually happened, and a bunch of instances throughout history on how the little guy beat the big guy. Sure. That's super applicable. Sure. I want to take down Crown Royal. I want to put them out of business. They're my arch enemy, right? Cool. Yeah. I read the Art of Storytelling. I can't remember the author who did that.
I've read that too, or listened to it. I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, so
not a great
I put on 35,000 kilometers in my car in the past 4 months.
It's a great university, your car.
Yeah. So I podcast everything. Yeah. Whether that's, Planet Money or Hidden Brain.
Steps to Success.
Steps to Success. Yeah. I listen to that one as well. Or it's Joe Rogan. Like, he's a bit more entertaining. No, at least you're like consuming something that's like, that, I might not agree with everything he says or anything. But it's like thought stimulating.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily
Gary Vaynerchuk. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah, I used to follow him all the time. Yeah. I don't have time. He produces too much content.
He does produce a lot. Yeah, for sure. But I do enjoy listening to him.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah. Good books.
Great books.
Yeah.
Great books. Well, I'm glad you brought up books because
what's the like jab, right hook? Right, that was the first one I read of his. I bought that one.
And he's got Ask Gary V, which is a great book, and he's got what's the one that's coming up and out right now? Crush It.
Yeah.
And then he's coming up with crushing it.
Gary's crazy. He's a huge character, larger than life, which is fantastic. And he says a lot of stuff, and it's hard to read through all of it. What it really comes down to is like a little bit of hard work, is what he's saying, like work more.
Yeah.
But he's saying like the whole bit of his, his whole crux is control what you can. It's work harder, work harder, work harder.
Yeah, right. That's one variable that you can control.
What else, besides, working part-time job through at university, having some cash to start the business, like there are a few other things that you can do to control.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of stuff that you can't.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what he pitches is, do your thing and do it well.
Education continues after school too. I think that's important. That's what your reading suggests to me, is that you find that valuable.
In my first year of university, you take 5 classes a semester. That's 10 classes at 10 weeks at 3 hours a week. However many hours that is, I can tell you one thing.
Wow.
Right? Like, that was 4 years ago.
Good point.
Yeah, so like school's nice to have that piece of paper to say like there's something to back up on.
Yeah.
If you don't have plan B, plan A is probably not going to work out.
Yeah.
That's just my luck anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But
so what's next for Cole? Just continue to bust your ass for
more stores.
Yeah.
I have about 2, maybe 3 more weeks before LCBO kind of shuts down from the sales point, and they'll ramp up for Christmas, and they'll say,
"Gotcha.
Piss off, don't talk to me. I want to run my store."
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got a couple weeks to get a whole whack load of stores. I got Alberta coming on for November 1st, so I'm doing a launch out there in 50 stores for a trial to see how that works. If it goes well on Christmas, they'll bring me on for 200 in the spring. So I want to make that successful. If I can sell in my own backyard, being Ontario and Canada, I've got the States and some other countries that are interested, where the real volume is done. So about 90-ish% of all Canadian whiskey is sent off to the States or export markets. So yes, there's a valuable market here. That 10% is nice to have, but the large volumes and where you will eventually make that money is in the export market. Gotcha. But I have to prove that it works here first. Sure. So that's kind of, first step 1 is making it work Ontario. Step 2 is making it work Canada. Step 3 is, okay, let's go foreign.
Well, success is a series of steps, isn't it?
With a couple backwards too.
Well, it certainly happens. I think it's just your persistence and just keep moving forward. Yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. If there's anything ever I can help you do,
I appreciate that.
Just reach out. It's probably not worth much because I don't have a lot of talent in a lot of areas, but I certainly would be happy to assist you in any way that I can in the future. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate you having us in. That was quite an interesting conversation. I'm glad to stop by.
All right. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me on this week's episode. I really appreciate you taking the time. If before you go, you could just quickly leave me some feedback, I'd really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Just remember, success comes one step at a time.